So this is my very first craft video ever, and if this does really well, my whole season is going to be popsicle sticks crafts. There's actually a lot of cool things that you can do with them, so let's get started. What you're going to need for this first one, which let me introduce what we are going to be doing in this first one, making a beautiful arrow. This can be a wall decoration or whatever. It's just very pretty and it's really fun to make. I painted it blue. You can paint it whatever color you want. You can see that there's some dimension to it, some layers. Just kind of makes it pop a little better. Really fun and easy. So what you're going to need for that is scissors, a very sharp pair of scissors. The popsicle sticks are hard to cut whenever you're not using sharp ones. Hot glue sticks and a hot glue gun. I got this fancy one, but you can use like a mini one or whatever. I just think as long as it's a high temperature glue gun, it should be fine. Low temperature glue guns are really just for fabric and lace. So if it's a low temperature glue gun, it's not really going to bond. Plus, higher temperature glue guns and bigger ones like this one that I have put out more glue, and it's a little bit easier to kind of like push the sticks where you want them to go while the glue is still hot and not bonded. So that popsicle sticks, of course, even some cut in half. Popsicle sticks are not a very full length number of centimeters or inches. They're actually like a really weird number. So if you want to cut these perfectly in half, you have to like measure them. I measured it out, so I'll just put a little note on the video at what you get your ruler out, measure it, and I'll tell you where to cut it, where it'll be perfectly in half and both sides will be the same size, if that makes sense. Sorry for being weird about it. And then something important to note about popsicle sticks is you're not going to have perfect ones in the full box. There's a lot that are just really weird. Some holes are in some, and some of them are just cut funny. Like, oh, like this one. Like a lot of jagged edges and just weird. So anyway, I think that basically covers the basis. Let's get started with it. So to start, we're going to need 3 popsicle sticks. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to hot glue them into a triangle. The first step we're going to do here is the point of the arrow. The arrow part of the arrow, I believe is what that part is called. So we're going to glue them together like so. Where this kind of lines up with this. It doesn't have to be perfect because I can take my straight edge later and smooth that out. But we're going to line it up with this like that. And glue it like at the tip. It doesn't really matter how wide or narrow you make your angle, because whenever you glue this third one on this way, it's basically going to make your triangle angle for you. So, a triangle. Easy sneezy. Let's get the glue on here for that. Now if you're having something like this, where this is coming off way far on the ends, you do want to try to line that up as good as you can. So just pull it down, and since this has put out a lot of glue, it's staying hot for a little while. It's giving me time to kind of put it where I need it to go. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So as long as your triangle looks like this, you are following the instructions correctly. Very easy. So next we need to take note of where this bottom, it doesn't actually have to be the bottom, but this popsicle stick, find the one that's underneath of the 2 that overlap the ends. So you can see this one right here is under and then over. This one is over and over, and this one's just underneath both. So find the one that's underneath both, and that right there is where we're going to add our next popsicle stick. Underneath, on top of these 2 points. You should have something like this. Next, you will find the spot on the triangle where the stick is behind the 2 points, just like we just did, and that's where you'll add your next popsicle stick. so now we're going to do the next one. Can you guess where the next popsicle stick's going to go? That's right, where the one is underneath the two ends. This is a pretty basic and important pattern to follow, but once you get it down, it's really easy. And this is important to remember because later on in the next crafts we're going to do, this is the same pattern we're going to use when we glue them together in different shapes. And now we've got 2 layers. We're going to do this to 3. But the thing is, I actually like to do it the 3rd layer a little different than this. I like to have like this little overlapping type of illusion I did with my first one here. I don't know if you can really see it, but this is on top, that's on top, and then that one's on top. So it kind of gives for this weird little illusion type thing. And with the last 3 sticks, we're going to do this type of illusion. You don't have to. If you want to, I will show you how to do it. So just like before, we're going to find the one that's underneath the 2 points. We're going to add 1 dot of glue to 1 point instead of to both, and put the stick on it like that. Okay, so this is on top and this is on top, but this is still only the 2nd layer, so we can't count this one. Just start with this. This is on top, so we're going to put this one underneath right here, so that way it comes out on top here, and then we'll put this one underneath of it here and let it come out on top right there, so we have that illusion. It's pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and get this glue. So there it is, our arrow with the illusion, the 3 points overlapping. So you're going to notice a few things here which are kind of important. The first thing is that whenever we overlapped them, we kind of skipped that pattern, so they're not going between each other like right, left, right, left, right, left. It's going to be like that on this side, same with that side, and then this side it is actually still doing the pattern right, left, right, left, right, left. But the most important thing to notice is we're going to try to find where the spaces on here are widest, right here. So this side, these 2 sticks are very close together, so I don't want that one. This side, they're pretty wide to begin with, and then they end kind of shallow. And this side, all 3 are very spaced out. It's going to come in handy. It's going to be very important to know later on. So just remember which side has the biggest spaces. Okay, so for this next part, you're going to need 12 popsicle sticks. And what you're going to do with 8 of these popsicle sticks is cut off the rounded points of each side of only 8 of them. And you don't have to cut very far, just where you feel like the roundedness kind of ends. So just go ahead and cut off 8 of them. And just to warn you, once you start cutting these, the little ends of them just fly everywhere. So if you don't have a pair of very sharp scissors, you're going to need a lot of strength in your hands. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I'm prepared. And then the last 4, you're only going to cut the ends off of just one side, leaving the other 2 sides round. Well, you're going to do this with 4 of them, not just 2, so I'm going to need to do 2 more. Okay, putting the 4 to the side that have the rounded edges, and the ones that are completely cut on both sides, you want to kind of line them up and try to make sure they're about the same, well actually make sure they are the same length. And to do that, you're going to have to trim away. So pair them up and make sure they're the same length as their pair. So after you've got that, we're going to take our hot glue and glue them together side by side, line them up perfectly, just the pairs. And whenever I'm gluing these together, if I'm using this big one, I barely hold the trigger in, just like about halfway, because otherwise you'll be dripping glue all over the place. To just get a little bit of glue on this tiny edge here. Just very carefully go all the way down the stick. Try not to leave any empty spaces like I just did right there. And then the one that I paired this one with and measured, make sure it was even and aligned, I'll be gluing it to it. Like that. Just kind of press it on the table to make sure that they're going to be flat and even. So next, what we're going to do is glue two of them together at the ends like this. And you can see that these are not going to line up perfectly no matter how I turn them or try to. So I'm going to have to trim it to make it kind of line up a little bit better. So if you need to trim yours, go ahead and trim it the best that you can to try to make this as straight as possible so that it lines up as good as it can with the other stick. Okay, and after you've glued those two together, you'll get this. You can kind of see that it's a little wobbly in the middle where we glued it, but that's okay because this is the shaft of the arrow that we're working on. It's all going to be a little wobbly, but by the time it's done, we're going to put some things in between there to help sturdy it, so that way the middle is not completely wobbly. Okay, so after you've got this, you're going to take a rounded one and a double flatted one and glue it together the same way, like so. Double flatted, rounded, flat, and glue them together like that. So now that we've got 3 sets of these glued together, the next thing we're going to do is go back to our triangle, find that space where the sticks are apart the furthest away from each other, where there's the biggest gaps. We're going to take one of these with the rounded edges on one side. We're going to put a little bit of glue on each of the rounded spots, like this. And I'm going to flip it over and do it again on this side. I'm going to take this and make sure I've got the top of my arrow, the front part where it's got the illusion, and I'm going to take the rounded sticks and slide them between that first gap. Just enough. I don't want them coming out the top, so I'm going to pull it down just a little bit and kind of like squeeze the sticks together. Now, if you do this and it turns out like super crooked like mine, don't be too upset about it, because the glue on these sticks, it's really easy to kind of, well, it's not really easy, it's actually really sturdy, but if you work hard enough, you can snap it off and re-glue it until it's straightened out. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is take the one that's flat on both sides, flat here, and I'm going to glue the edge right there. And this is going to go to the edge of this middle popsicle stick. It's not going to go between any, just right there on that edge part. I'll do that. And next, take the rounded one that you got left, put glue on both sides, front and back. Do the same thing with that last gap at the top. Just stick that in between there. It's going to be a little tighter. Make sure you don't poke it all the way out, just make sure it's out just enough. And there we've got our popsicle stick, arrow, point, and shaft. Now, I did mention that it's a little unsturdy in the middle, and something that you can do to fix that is take some of these rounded pieces that we cut off earlier, and you can glue them in between these right where it bends. This one's a little sturdier. You can do it between all of them if you want to. There's going to be plenty of these little rounded pieces that you cut off earlier to do that. Okay, so the next part of our craft here, we are going to be making the fletching and knock part of our arrow. And this is actually the trickiest part to make, but it's still very easy. I'm going to go through this and try to explain it the best way that I can. So what you're going to need to start here is 6 full-length popsicle sticks and 12 half-length popsicle sticks. First, you're going to take 2 full-length popsicle sticks, line them up parallelly as best as you can, kind of leaving a pretty decent gap between there. And then you're going to take 2 half-size popsicle sticks, and right here at the ends, where it's the flat side, I'm going to line that up with the rounded part of the top here, like this. On both sides, and like that, so that I get this M shape. It's also really important that you, whenever you go to glue it, you line these up as good as you can at the tips. I'm trying to keep the sticks lined up as good as I can. And I'm going to take advantage over how my glue is staying hot for a while to kind of line these up, make it look nicer, just like that. It's an M. Next, we'll take 2 more half-size popsicle sticks and do the same thing halfway down the sticks, like so. About right there. And then we'll take 2 more popsicle sticks and do the same thing at the end. Like that. You should have something like this. And the next step we're going to do from here is take 2 more full-length popsicle sticks, and we're going to glue those down right here and right here, trying to line them up as perfectly as we can with the first popsicle stick we put down. We're going to apply glue to here, here, and here for that first popsicle stick. And to try to line these up as parallelly as I can, I'm going to try to put it against the flat side of the table, which of course I can't on this side because I've got a little bit of an edge popping out here. So scratch that. I'm also not going to freak out too much about that sharp edge because I'm going to take my razor later and just shave that off, trim it down to make it as even with the other 2 sticks as I can. Next, do the same thing with the other side. And we'll have something like this. And then we're going to do the same thing that we did with the middle ones again with our half-size popsicle stick. And do the same thing that we did for the first step and put them together, gluing them like that. So you want to be very careful not to glue the new ones that we're putting down to the old ones that we did first. So that way it'll still be like this, but it'll have a gap in between this layer and that layer. Now we've got something like this with 2 layers here. You can see here that there's a gap between the top layer and the bottom layer because I didn't glue there, and we're not going to glue there. It's very important not to. And last, what we'll do is glue on our 2 full-length popsicle sticks to the top. And there we have our fletching and knock. So what we're going to do next is attach it to our arrow shaft at the end. Now you'll see here we've got one section that's longer than the other 2 layers, and they kind of come apart pretty easily. That's because I didn't divide these yet. I haven't put anything in between them to sturdy them. If you haven't done that by now, you should probably do that before adding this, because that'll make it a little bit easier to put something between there before this is on. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so I went ahead and added some sturdiness to my popsicle sticks in the middle to keep my shaft from bending, keep it sturdy. Next, I'm going to put this on here. And what we'll do is we'll take this bottom layer here, glue it to the bottom point. Take the middle layer and put it in between the popsicle sticks. Sometimes you'll have to kind of push and like wiggle to get it in there. Other times you'll have a pretty big enough gap that it'll fit right through. And then this top layer will be glued to the top part of the points. Like that. There you will have it, your popsicle stick arrow.